Hi, I'm Jeanette Smith from Vinesmith Vineyard Services. The Virginia Vineyards Association's Labor Tracking Worksheet is the product of a collaboration between 6 VVA members. Myself, Ori Holtzlag from Brown Bear Vineyards, Tom Kelly from Rappahannock Cellars, Kiernan Slater from Slater Run Vineyards, Carl Tender from Tender Cattle and Vineyard, and Hunter Empsch from Virginia Wine Works. The labor tracking worksheet is a tool that any grape grower can use to compare the cost of doing vineyard tasks manually versus mechanically in his or her own vineyard. It can also be used to compare the cost of head training versus cordon training vines. Here's how the worksheet is laid out. Canopy management tasks throughout the year are listed here. We didn't include tasks that are usually done with a tractor, such as canopy spraying, herbicide spraying, or mowing. We're only looking at tasks that are traditionally done manually. Then, the cost of doing each task manually is calculated in this section with the average labor man-hours per acre that it takes our collaborators to do each task listed in this column. The cost of doing each task with a specialized machine is calculated in this section, and if any of our collaborators used a specialized machine to do the task, those average machine hours per acre were listed in this column. These average hours per acre reflect a vineyard that's trained to VSP training system with 9-foot row spacing. You can expect a vineyard with a divided canopy or closer row spacing to require more man-hours per acre. Conversely, you can expect a vineyard with wider row spacing to require fewer man-hours per acre. To compare time required to manage head-trained versus cordon-trained vines, data for pruning and shoot thinning head-trained vines is in red font, and data for training cordon-trained vines is in purple font. The worksheet uses these average labor and machine times per acre, as well as other data on the worksheet, to calculate the labor and machine costs per acre. However, we really don't believe our average times are very meaningful because our sample size was really too small. That is, we only have data from 5 grower collaborators, and I regret that we only had one collaborator that uses head training. Also, sometimes our collaborators do multiple manual tasks at the same time, so we can't tease out how much time it takes them to do just one of those tasks. So really, the best way to use this worksheet is for you to plug in your own time data. If you record labor and machine time data in your operation, plug that data in the green shaded cells in these columns. Then, the worksheet will use your data, not the averages from the collaborators, to calculate the labor and machine costs. There are other columns and cells shaded in green where you can plug in your own numbers. I'll talk about those now as I explain how the worksheet works. To determine the cost per acre of doing a task manually, plug in your man-hours per acre here. Next, plug in the average hourly rate that you pay your workers here. Then, the formula in this cell now calculates your cost per acre to do this task manually. Figuring the cost per acre of a machine is a little complicated. You need to add up the cost of the operator's time plus depreciation of the machine plus maintenance of the machine. If you finance this implement, you will need to also include the debt service for the implement. But to simplify this process, I'm not including that cost here. Since most of these implements require a tractor, you'll also need to add the cost of operating that tractor. In the worksheet, we've provided data for the tractor here. Now, let's go back to our machine cost calculations. In addition to the cost of the implement, tractor costs include depreciation and fuel and maintenance. Now, as you know, the cost per acre of owning and using a machine is acreage dependent, so you need to plug in your acres here. Okay, so first let's look at the cost of the equipment operator. Let's assume it takes you 4/10 of an hour per acre to chop your prunings, and you pay your tractor operator $20 an hour. Here's the cost per acre for that operator to do that task. That operator cost will then go into this total cost. Now let's look at depreciation of the implement. Let's assume a new Rinieri flail mower from Winchester Equipment. We're going to assume we're going to replace the machine in 10 years. To make it simple, the worksheet uses straight line depreciation with no salvage value. So here's the depreciation of this machine per year. To get depreciation per acre, our worksheet will divide our annual depreciation by our acres, and that number will be added to our total. I've plugged in an average maintenance cost per hour for this machine that I got from a Cornell publication. But if you have your own number, you can plug it in here. And then that number gets multiplied by the operating time per acre and then added to our total. Next, let's look at tractor fuel and maintenance. I'm assuming a new 70 horsepower narrow tractor with a cab from Winchester Equipment. You can plug in whatever tractor you want. And then with this tractor, I expect fuel and maintenance to cost $18 per hour of operation. This number also comes from that Cornell publication. If you have your own costs, you can plug them in here. This number then goes into the hourly cost of our tractor. Now let's look at tractor depreciation. Here's the cost of our new tractor. You can plug in your own number if you want. In this example, we're going to assume we're going to replace the tractor in 15 years. But again, you can plug in however many years you want. Again, we're going to use straight line depreciation with no salvage value. So here's the depreciation of this tractor per year. But what we really need to know is the depreciation per hour of operation. So if this tractor is currently being used for just spraying canopy, herbicide, and mowing the vineyard, I'm estimating that we're using it for about 25 hours per acre per year. If we have a 10-acre vineyard, that means I'm putting 250 hours per year on my tractor, right? So now I'm going to divide my annual depreciation by 250 hours to get my cost of depreciation per hour of use. I'm then going to add that hourly depreciation to my hourly fuel and maintenance to get my total cost per hour of owning and operating this tractor, which in this example is $33. Finally, we're going to multiply the hourly cost of our tractor by our hours per acre to operate this implement and add that to all of our other costs to get our cost per acre for operating this machine in the vineyard. In this example, it's costing us $60 per acre to dispose of prunings by hand versus $87 per acre to dispose of prunings with a flail mower. However, your numbers are going to be very different from these, so you need to keep your own records and plug in your own data. There are many ways to track labor and machine times in your operation. The second tab of the labor tracking worksheet is a form that you can print out and use as an employee or contract laborer timesheet. For each day, the worker logs the number of hours he or she spent working on each task. I want to thank the collaborators for this project, as well as Tim Gano from Winchester Equipment for giving me prices on implements. Also, I'd like to thank Dawn Stein for her time data on the Rinieri desuckering machine. If you have any questions or comments about this worksheet, please feel free to contact me at Jeanette@vinesmith.com. Thank you.